Hello, we are here today as part of the Legacy Project. Today we are excited to be joined by Mr. Eddy Williams. Start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you went to high school, where you went to college, and some of your influential teachers along the way.
Great, I'd be glad to. And I thank you for the honor of being a part of this project, and hope someone and something good will come out of it one day. My name is Eddy Williams. I was born in Mobile, Alabama, but moved to Montgomery at the age of 6 and went to school, my entire schooling in Montgomery, Alabama. I was at Del Rey Elementary, Goodwin Junior High School with George Prince as my first band director, and at Robert E. Lee High School under Mr. Tom Borden. Great junior high and high school career. It's towards the end of Mr. Prince's career, but he did teach us an awful lot, and he has a wonderful legacy himself. So it's just nice to be a part of that pedigree musically as well. At Robert E. Lee High School, I was there from 68 to 71, and I got introduced in a great way through Mr. Tom Borden to the world of band music. Went into high school thinking I would be in some type of law career, law or law enforcement or something along those lines, but slowly but surely before my senior year, this is what I like to do. It's where I like to be in the band room. So this is maybe what I should be doing. And I just grew a passion. We played some great music at state contests back then. There wasn't as much music written specifically for band. I remember playing Nellie Bell's Festivo for the first time when it was a pretty new piece. And the music we played in Fingal's Cave and American Overture for Band, there's just not many high school bands playing that kind of literature nowadays, but it gave me a real passion for music. And I just owe so much to Mr. Borden. Still talk to him on a regular basis now, and still like to go back and revisit some of his stories too. It was just a great time of growing up. We had some great friends, and I went. Probably should have started this whole thing that if you want to know me, you got to know that I'm a family man, and I've been married now for 47 years, and my wife has been my typist and my accompanist since I was in the 11th grade. And so we've got 2 great kids and 3 great grandkids, and they're just wonderful. And that's a major part of who I am and how I've come to be what I am. My wife and I actually met. She was a cheerleader at Lee High School, and our first date, if you will, was on the cheerleaders at that time rode the band buses to football games, and we played Tuscaloosa High School, and that was our first time being together, and a date to the fair after that, and then here we are, and we dated for 3 before we got married, so we've been together 50 years. A great story, and part of how I've been able to sustain in this career is because having such a strong wife with me and a partner all along the way, and a musician too, and that helped tremendously all along. I graduated from Robert E. Lee High School in '71 and enrolled at the University of Alabama that fall, and was a member of the $1 Million Band, and with Dr. James Ferguson. His first year was my first year at Alabama, so and that was a trip. I thought that I had experienced some great moments in music, making music, and I did at Lee in high school, but never forget what Dr. Ferguson could pull out of a concert band especially. Many great stories from marching season and concert season, but just some great music that he got out. I've never seen anybody spend as much time on a college level in a tips book as Dr. Ferguson did. And it paid off, and I've used Tip's book everywhere I've been ever since. It was just great. My wife's favorite piece of music, because we were married when between semesters of my sophomore year. And she had never forgotten hearing for the first time Elsa's procession to the cathedral with Dr. Ferguson conducting. It was an amazing night, an amazing bit of music making that we got to do. It's been her favorite piece ever since. So that's kind of who I am and that journey as a student.
Yeah, now tell us a little bit about your career, where you taught, memorable people, performances, and experiences along the way.
Well, it's great that you ask about memorable people, because the further I went into my career, the more and more I realized that it is about the people. It becomes less and less. The music is just the venue. It's just the vehicle. But it's the meeting people and taking part in people's lives that's important. But we'll get back to that in a little bit. Upon graduation, I went right back to Montgomery and was at 2 different junior high schools over the next 7 years. Floyd Junior High, my first job, and Goodwin Junior High for 1.5 years. My first principal, it made the interview so easy when I went into the office with my first school I was interviewing with. He was my 9th grade Algebra 1 teacher. And luckily, I made really good grades in Algebra 1. So Mr. Clements remembered me very well and fondly. And so as soon as I walked in the interview, I calmed down, and the interview was really great. And he gave me my first position at Floyd, at that time junior high school. It's now middle school. Taught there for 6 years, then transferred over to Goodwin Junior High School in Montgomery, which was where I went to school. And I so much wanted to get back to the school that I had gone to teach at, and had a chance to make that transfer, and did it. And just had great principals along the way. Not only Mr. Clements, but Harry Anderson at Goodwin. Just a strict disciplinarian. You didn't want to be put out in the hall and have Mr. Anderson come along and find you. And that was back in the days where you could use a paddle, and Mr. Anderson was not afraid to do that. But, kids loved him, and certainly the teachers did. He backed us, and he was a great principal to work for, and I've been so fortunate throughout my entire career to just work for fantastic administrators. After a couple of years at Goodwin, I got out of teaching for 6 or 7 years. Thought there was something more I wanted to do. I went out to Fort Worth, Texas, and went to Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, and intended to go into church music full time. Got a great Master of Church Music degree, wonderful study, some great professors and friends that developed through my time in Texas, and some fantastic conducting classes. We were pushed hard, but it made me excel at conducting and listening and hearing things that are going on, and isolating those things and finding solutions and that sort of thing. So I really appreciated my church music degree. It was something I could apply in either a choir situation or a band situation, because I was used to rehearsing. Served 2 churches full time, and then found my way back to Montgomery, and back in the band business, right back full circle at Floyd Junior High School. There are some events, if you want to talk about that later, we can, but a whole circle of events that brought me back to Montgomery, and I never left the church music vocation. It became a bivocation, if you will. I got back into teaching full-time through Clinton Carter, who was the vice principal at Lee when I was a student, and then later became superintendent of education at Montgomery Public Schools. And I came back to Montgomery looking for a job, and he made me feel comfortable. He was glad to see me, remembered me, and had just found out the day before that the position at Floyd Junior High was opening back up, and he said it was yours, it was mine if I wanted it. And so I was back in the teaching business. Stayed there and was very comfortable with it, but still a little anxious that maybe I should be doing something else besides being in a band classroom. So I started a school counseling degree at Troy University in Montgomery, and was halfway through that degree when Montgomery Public Schools announced a new plan that if you had a master's degree and weren't teaching in that degree subject, you weren't going to get the master's level pay. So I started looking around again, and I thought, well, maybe, and started looking at Troy main campus at their Master of Music Ed degree. And it just looked really good. The people down there, again, it's all about the people. The Smith brothers, Ray and James, and Carol, and Dr. Long, and just all of that crew was such a great faculty. And looked into it, talked with them, and decided I was going to get my Master of Music Ed, and that way I could get the pay and then come back to the counseling degree when all that was done. Was completely re-energized by the faculty at Troy University at that time and their program. There was not a day that I didn't go through classes and could take everything we talked about right back to the band. It was not a degree of education in theory. It was so practical. Even my lessons, even my oboe lessons with Ray Smith, we talked more about being a band director than about playing the oboe. And I was richer for it. And it re-energized my desire to be back in the band room. So I completely forgot about the school counseling degree. But we know as band directors, we do as much counseling as most anybody. And that's a great part of the job, too. It never left. That has never been out of my heart to get next to kids in such a way to affect them if they approach and have the opportunity to do that. Not only, certainly well beyond the music and rehearsal room. So that takes me through graduate school and back re-energized into the band classroom, and things just kept progressing from there. I went from Goodwin Junior High, I went from Floyd the second time around, crazy circle, to Goodwin a second time around. And very shortly after that, the job at Jefferson Davis High School in Montgomery came open. And there were students in my Goodwin band that were ninth graders that would be going to Jeff Davis the following year. And I was getting ready to consider the interview for that job. And so I picked a couple of those students out that were leaders in the group, and I took them aside and I said, what would you think if I had a chance of being your band director next year also? And they were thrilled. It made, it just made my day. And of course I went ahead with the interview, and you're gonna think this is crazy, but I see so many circles and God's hand at moving in my career. I went into the Jeff Davis interview not knowing I'm going to go from junior high to, at that time, a 6A high school and have to play, AA music at state contests where I've been playing, D level and that sort of thing. I'm wondering, can I do this? Well, my students were encouraging. I go into the interview really pretty nervous, and behold, the principal leading the interview was a teacher at Floyd Junior High School the first time I was there. She was a Spanish teacher then, Betty Armstead. We started our teaching careers the same year at Floyd. She is now principal at Jeff Davis High School. And when I went into that interview, I felt completely relaxed and at home. And then I was given the opportunity to have that job and served there for 7 years. And then the rest of my teaching career, my entire teaching career, all 44 years of it, has been within the city of Montgomery. Floyd Junior High, Goodwin Junior High, both on 2 different occasions. Jeff Davis Junior High, it sounds like I can't hold a job, but I was in the same school system for all those years. Jefferson Davis High School. And then demographics and things kind of changed, Jeff Davis was needing a different kind of band director than I felt like I could be. And I had an opportunity to move to the private school in town where my kids were students. So I had a chance to get the job at Trinity Presbyterian School and was there 11 years. Some great administrators there, but really there it was band students and band parents that were just so influential and so helpful. Never had a band organization like I had there. And that was really great. And I was there 11 years, and the opportunity came again by just a crazy series of events. A good friend of mine that helped me tremendously when I got into high school business. As a matter of fact, he wrote the drill for my first show. I got the job at Jeff Davis a week before band camp, and 2 nights before band camp, we were at his dining room table late at night putting drill, and he did 3 pages of drill. We learned it all the first day. I had to go back up and get some more. But Harold Blankenship taught me a lot about that and got me started on the high school marching band ropes and gave me the confidence that I knew what I was doing and could make it work. So Harold retired by the end of my time at Trinity and took the job as the first band director at Huntington College here in Montgomery when they were trying to create a marching band program. And I helped Harold. I turned around and helped him with budget things that he took in the interview process and a list of instruments that say a 50-piece band, marching band would need. And I helped him design the first uniforms. We just did a lot of things together. Well, a couple of years later, he had the need and the group had grown for an assistant band director. And of course he came calling and so I went to Huntington. Even took a pay cut to jump to the college ranks because it just looked like such a great opportunity. And I was Harold's assistant for the first half year, then he retired completely and he went to Georgia actually to teach. And I was offered the job full-time midway through the first year, and I finished 9 years at Huntington last May and retired. And as it turned out, another great bit of circumstances encircled. I was wondering what I was going to do, because when all of a sudden you think retirement is great, and there are some positive things about it, but all of a sudden you've been so busy, and now with nothing to do, thanks to 2 guys that called me right away, Mark McClendon. The first day I announced I was retiring, he wanted me to come judge his contest because I never was able to judge. And then Jonathan Chance down at Laverne High School needed somebody in a hurry to write and drill and music for his show. So I got to do that this summer. Excuse me. Art Williams, who was a drum major at Troy years ago and well-known, great musician. He is the department head at Faulkner University here in Montgomery. We lived in the same neighborhood, 3 houses apart. When he heard I was retiring, he said, "We've been wanting to get an assistant director at Faulkner. Would you be interested?" And it was just a blessing. I go over for at most 2 hours a day. And I get to help Dr. Foster with the band and do whatever he needs to do. I don't really have a whole lot of responsibilities. I just help with rehearsal, play a little bit. I got to write some music for the front ensemble in marching band. I lead the jazz band 2 days a week. So I'm still in it, but without a lot of stress and it's great. This is my first time back to AMEA here in January of 2020, and without technically a school responsibility, and I'm loving it. I feel like I have some things to pass on to the young guys, and I walk these halls and I see how many young people are out there, and I said, you know what? Our activity is in great shape. There's some smart people, there's some great musicians out there, much smarter and much better musicians than when I came through. And so the students of Alabama are in fine shape right now with the teachers that are out there and that are coming up. And hopefully I've had a part of getting some of them prepared.
Yeah, so now share with us some things that you've learned through your career that made an impression on you and things that helped you become a better teacher.
One of the most important things that I learned, but didn't know I learned it till well into my career, we had a lady at the University of Alabama, and I tried to do some research, and I'm not that good at it, and couldn't find her name. I cannot remember. Dr. Ed Kleino, I remember, was in charge of education for us music guys. But this lady, we had to take a class, our last semester of school, after we did our student teaching in the fall. We came back in our last semester, she taught post-student teaching seminar. It was just like a debriefing, and what did you learn, and this is what we do. This is what you're going to do from now on. She made a statement, and I remember being such a cynical, smart-aleck guy, young guy. She said this. She got that finger and she shook it right at us, a group of us music ed guys, and said, "You do not teach music, you teach students." And we were polite, but later on, we just kind of laughed about that. What does she know? To us, anybody over 30 was elderly, but of all the things I got in a great grad school education and certainly a good undergrad education, and that one statement has stuck, and probably over the last 20 years has meant more to me than anything. And I think it has shaped the way everything I do. That yes, and if I could pass anything on to this hallway of great young educators, is make it about the kids. It's not about the trophies. It's not about the ratings. It's not even really about the music at that concert, because your band parents are going to love it. You're going to be great in their eyes as long as you make their kids great and feel great. You're going to be great. And of all the things, that has meant the most to me over the last half of my career. And I hope I've been able to have an impact on students and helping them even beyond fingerings and articulations and that sort of thing.
Is there anything else that you haven't gotten a chance to speak of yet that you would like to add?
One of the main things that has come as an outgrowth of my remembering that statement from way back and making it about the kids was my delving into the area of student leadership and trying to provide opportunities and activities and a system within my band programs that encourage students to become leaders. I grew to love the statement and idea, nothing's original with me, that our band doesn't get better when the best players get better. It's not the first chair player that has to get better and all the all-state people that are making us better. It's when that last chair trumpet player, that last chair clarinet player gets better. And if I can get that student to come in and one day, without them even realizing it, they've grown into a leadership position in my program, then I've succeeded. They may still be the last chair clarinet player, but they may be the best drum major I've ever had, because they have listened, they have worked on leadership skills, and they've done it by serving. And that has always been my mantra about leadership, is it's servantship. And the students that have bought into that, other students have noticed. And it's never been about what chair you sat in. It's about what you're doing for everybody else. And that, I think, we need to make sure we keep strong in our band rooms.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
It's been exciting and a privilege to be asked, and I thank you for that.